Okay, because again, we are brought up from the time we are little children to think that being wasteful is it's the ultimate crime, isn't
You are
it?
listening to the Decluttering Club podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Mueller, and it's my mission to equip women to declutter their homes, their time, and their lives so that they can cherish what truly matters.
You are listening to the Decluttering Club podcast, episode number 39. Don't be wasteful. So, I'm probably going to ruffle a lot of feathers with this podcast, and that's okay because this is not for everybody. But for the people who need to hear this message, here you go. And if this doesn't apply to you, then don't feel triggered. Just scroll on by, come back for the next one. Okay. So I recently posted on Facebook and Instagram. I posted a post about letting go of packaging, about how I don't keep most packaging. I just let it go. It's kind of like a rule that I have for myself, a rule that I have chosen for myself and I've decided on. Well, let me tell you, the response to this post, we are up to several hundred comments already. Several hundred comments. And apparently, y'all have some strong feelings about keeping boxes or not keeping boxes and bubble wrap and packaging. And so I want to talk about it. And the reason I want to talk about it is because of the way that it has triggered some people, right? So we got a lot of comments, and the one theme that stood out the most to me is the idea of, oh, you're being wasteful, right? And someone gave me this whole diatribe, and she was like, the planet and this and that. And at the end, she just ended and she said, wasteful. And I was like, oh, okay. You know what the thing is? To be called wasteful by someone else, that is on the same level. I think for us as mature women to be called wasteful, it's pretty close to being called a liar or a thief. Or if you want to go there, it's like being called a slut. Okay? It's like this is the worst thing that can happen to a certain group of women, women who consider ourselves respectful, we consider ourselves upstanding citizens. But oh my gosh, don't let us be considered wasteful. And I want to talk about this because I think it's super important. And I think this post has uncovered this undercurrent of something that is going on that is really, really important and is causing a lot of trouble for a lot of people. So before I get into this, I want to say if you want to keep a box, if you want to keep a million boxes, if you want to keep the boxes that your blender came in and your TV and your toaster, if you want to keep the Amazon boxes, more power to you. Like, I'm not going to stop you. I'm not saying that is wrong. Okay. So don't get all mad at me. I'm not taking away your boxes. Okay. However, there are a lot of you who have told me you have rooms full of boxes, or you can't let them go, or maybe you do let them go, but you feel bad about it. And those are the people that I want to talk to. This is the reason for this podcast. Okay. Because again, we are brought up from the time we are little children to think that being wasteful is it's the ultimate crime, isn't it? It's the ultimate crime. And how does this show up? It shows up like this. Like, don't let that go. It might be wasteful. You might be wasteful. You're harming the planet, right? This is the theme that shows up over and over and over again in our lives. And at what cost? Now, maybe your grandmother or your mother or your favorite aunt, maybe they needed to keep these boxes. Maybe, and by extension, maybe they needed to keep all the things, right? They needed to keep the tin that the tea came in, and it made sense for them. Either they couldn't go out and buy a new one, it wasn't readily available, they didn't have the money, they lived through the Great Depression, or whatever. They needed to. It made sense for them. Or maybe it wasn't so much that they needed it, but just that they were conditioned by, like their parents or society or whatever. This is the same conditioning that had your grandmother ironing the underwear and ironing the sheets for the family. Do you think it's important that the underwear gets ironed? I don't think so. I don't think that it's a good use of our time. But you know what? There were people that felt shame and that felt like they were in the wrong, that felt that they had committed some crime if they didn't do that. And the same thing is going on today with people who feel like they have to keep things so that they are not wasteful. Like it's become this pedestal in and of itself, and we don't even stop to ask why. We don't even stop to ask, is this actually happening? It's just like, oh, don't be wasteful, and that's it. Right? We're done. Like game over, like conversation over. And I want to question that because it's causing all kinds of unpleasant, unhappy consequences for people, particularly for women, because this is what I see. Right? And it causes people to become slaves to their things. And if you live in a world where you feel like you have to keep every last blessed box or bubble wrap or packaging or whatever it is, whether it's coupons or whatever, if you think those things are more important than you and your sanity and your space, I want to offer you some freedom because I'm going to tell you it is not true. In no universe are those things more important than you, right? Flat out. I don't care if they go in the trash, right? And I get a lot of hate for that. But I think someone needs to say it, right? Because I know that there are real women who are struggling with this and who are suffering under this burden that they are carrying, which does not have to be theirs to bear. Here's the thing. This is the way I see it. You can take it or leave it. I think that that letting go of things that you're not using is not wasteful, no matter what they are. Period. End of story. I don't care what happens to the things after you let them go. That is not wasteful. But here's what is wasteful. What is wasteful is you wasting your time, your space, your energy, your mental health at the sacrifice, at the altar of some cardboard box. That is what is wasteful. We're wasting our lives, sacrificing them because of some cardboard god that we think we're appeasing if we can reuse stuff at least once, right? At least we can use it once. Then I'll feel a little bit better. Then my conscience feels better. But here's the thing about that. Like, if you're just trying to make your conscience feel better, you could probably never get there. You can never do enough, right? Like, you just can't win that game. And why? Well, the reason is because if you're trying to feel less guilty, like there's always a little bit of guilt there. It's always there. And so you're always going to feel it, right? When we think we need to keep something because it's wasteful, there's a lot of shame going on inside of that dynamic, right? We're keeping things, we're trying to repurpose them, we turn them into junk journals and we turn them into art and we find uses for them. We take the bread bags and turn them into kitty litter like disposal. Okay, great. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But if you feel like that is, that is what you must do with your time, I'm telling you, because you feel ashamed when you don't, I'm telling you that nothing good ever comes of shame. Ever. Right? That is not the way to positive change. And that's why we don't really feel better when we do stuff out of shame. It's not useful. It's not productive. Maybe you are convicted. That is very, very different than doing something out of shame. So just be aware of that, right? If something is causing you shame, it's a lie and it's not true. And it is designed, whether on purpose or maybe it's just by accident, because that's the way society has evolved. It's designed to keep women from changing and to keep you safe in the group. But the truth is that the world doesn't need to work this way. And freedom is available to you immediately. All you have to do is accept it, to reach out and say, yeah, I'd like that. Like, I'm not going to do this anymore. That is available to you immediately. How much time and space in your house is devoted to not wasting? All right, let me say this again. How much time and space is wasted in your life trying desperately not to waste the things? Right? I mean, we can create a new cardboard box. Let's face it, we really can. Now, do we want to? That's a different question, right? But we cannot create more time in our lives. We can't. As soon as you spend that minute, that hour, it is gone forever. You can't get it back. You can always go get another cardboard box. Or let's say you can decide you don't need a cardboard box, or you can go find a cardboard box from your neighbor, but you can't get that minute back. You can't get that hour back. If you need the space in your home, how many of you are coming to me and telling me you don't have enough space? Well, the space is there. It's just full of crap. It's just full of cardboard and coupons and things that you might need. It is actually available to you. You just don't want to take it. Okay? And so I want to show you that you are wasting things right now by taking this view. And I don't want to do this in order to cause you distress, right? But I do want to open your eyes. And I do want to tell you with as much love as I can and as much compassion that you don't have to believe this. Now, your friends and neighbors and family, they may not like this, right? I got a whole lot of hate. Someone told me, oh, you shouldn't tell people that because they could turn that into art. Someone could turn your cardboard or your whatever, they could recycle it, repurpose it, and they could turn it into art. And I said, well, what if I don't want to do that? And she said, well, someone does. Okay, well, if that is my only option, like I'm screwed. Excuse my language, but it's true, right? If I operate on the fact that, well, somebody somewhere might need this someday, like there's no way I can ever get rid of it. And if I do, I feel like crap, right? Do you see how that works? Somebody somewhere could use it. So you should hold on to it until they show up and ask for it. Like, no, thank you. No, thank you. Now, if that is your jam, amazing. You could probably ask your friends and they will give you all that stuff. And then you can do the things that you want to do. Do you see how that works? But let's not require other people to behave the same way. And for goodness sakes, let's not require ourselves to behave that same way because we don't have to. We just got to be willing to say, you know what, like this is not my priority right now. That's not my value. You know what my value is? My value is not wasting the space in my home, the time in my life, and the space in my head. Because this is the space that is the most important space of all of it. We live our lives in our thoughts, in our heads. And so if our lives are spent, if our thoughts are consumed with how do I not waste the things around me, like we don't have any time left for anything else, for anything creative. How much time and how much energy is lost? Energy, time that could be spent on creativity, on love, on serving others, on relaxing, on resting, on creating new things. I think a whole heck of a lot of it, I think it is wasted because we're so busy trying desperately to atone for the sin of having a cardboard box and wanting to reuse it. Okay? When you think about it, it's just paper. It's just wood pulp sitting in a closet, sitting in your garage. You don't owe it that debt that you think you owe to it. I promise you, you don't. Only if you're willing to pay it, and you don't have to be willing to pay it. Now, we are so conditioned by this fear of being wasteful that not only do we behave this way for ourselves, but we want everybody else to do it too. Right. And so you'll see this. You'll see this on Facebook. You see it on my Facebook page. Maybe you see it, in your friends and family. They want you to behave the same way. Right. They don't want you to let things go. They don't want you to throw things out or give things away because it might be wasteful. And then if you dare to let go and to buck the trend, they're going to shake their heads. They're going to cluck their tongues about how, the planet is like going to pot and the world is going to hell. And at least they're not participating. Right. And that is really hard to say no to. That is really hard to work against. But I'm telling you, it is not required that you behave that way. And here's the thing. The more of us that are willing to say, this is not how I want to live, like I am no longer bound by this, you are free. The more of you that just like step away from that, step out of those chains, the more people are going to be inspired and they're going to say, oh my gosh, she did that. Maybe I could do that too. Looks like she's okay. She got rid of all that stuff. Oh my goodness, how does that feel? Right? And so you can lead the way for other people who are suffering just like you are and who don't know that this is an option for them. And there are some people that are never going to want to let go. And there are some people that genuinely enjoy reusing these things, right? So let's let them do that. But that doesn't mean that we have to behave that way. We have to operate that way. All right. Whenever you are doing something, right, out of obligation or shame, it is not going to produce a good result for you. Right. And so you're not saving the planet. I have a whole nother list of thoughts. We're going to do another podcast on how you can actually save the planet. Okay, we're going to get into that. But I'm telling you, it is not by holding onto the cardboard boxes or reusing the plastic bags twice. Like, yeah, maybe a tiny bit, but it's a drop in the bucket. And there's some much better things that you can do that will create a much bigger impact. Okay, so I want you to not throw out the baby with the bathwater, for goodness sake. Okay, now, yes, be mindful, be intentional with how you use things, 100%. But don't take it to the extreme that you end up having things that are there at your own expense. You don't have to accept that, my friends. It's not required of you. All you have to do is say no and step away from it. Stop worrying about wasting things and start worrying about wasting your time and your life. I'll see you next week. That's all we have for you today. If you enjoyed this podcast, would you leave us a review? It would really help us get the word out. To start your decluttering journey, go to thedeclutteringclub.com. That is declutteringclub.com. We'll see you next time.